The escalating friction between Donald Trump and the Vatican has come to a head following the president's defiant use of AI-generated religious imagery. This digital provocation ignited a global debate over blasphemy and political overreach. Meanwhile, what you're seeing on the screen is the Pope's continuing trip in Africa. He's on a four-nation tour heading to Angola this Saturday. And part of this visit to the continent has been overshadowed by the spat with the U.S. president. Caitlin Brown reports.
The controversy started with a clash between the President of the United States and Pope Leo XIV. Following this, President Donald Trump shared a viral AI-generated image portraying himself as Christ-like. Although the image was deleted the following morning, the damage was already done. The Catholic community was shocked.
I believe that our Pope is doing exactly what he should be doing, which is to talk about the innocent, the poor in spirit, the people that he shepherds. And I think that the president seriously needs to reevaluate his own conscience. I dare question how much understanding he has of Christianity.
Part of it, of course, is Trump is not a Catholic himself, right? So I don't know how much the Pope's authority really means to him. He claims to be Christian. You know, obviously there's no shortage of things in his repertoire that seem to go against that.
Tensions boiled over into a dramatic diplomatic assault as Trump launched a verbal offensive against Pope Leo, labeling the pontiff weak. In response, Pope Leo issued a call for international peacekeepers to safeguard global stability. Vice President and known Catholic J.D. Vance supported the president and warned the Pope to be careful.
But I think that it's important, in the same way that it's important for the Vice President of the United States to be careful when I talk about matters of public policy, I think it's very, very important for the Pope to be careful when he talks about matters of theology.
Despite deleting the first post only days after the rebuke, Trump responded positively to a new AI image of him being embraced by Jesus. As protests ring out, the message to the Holy See is clear. The administration remain unmoved.
Trump's own statements on the war and on religion this week renewed concerns over his mental health. Democratic Congressman Mark Takano grilled Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about President Trump's mental fitness. Take a look.
April 7th, President Trump put out a statement that said, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight." And then later that day, the next day, President Trump posted this image of himself as Jesus Christ. We need a commander-in-chief that we know has full command of his mental faculties and is emotionally stable as he sends uniformed American men and women into harm's way.
For his part, Donald Trump admitted he had posted that AI image, but thought it portrayed him as a doctor. That post appears to have been deleted amid growing backlash. And Trump's official spiritual advisor has been making media rounds, eager to tell just how faithful Donald Trump is. Take a look.
His foundation of faith was very strong. His mother was a very godly woman, praying woman. They went to church all the time, Sunday, sometimes Saturday school, and he will say, and if the teacher was good, sometimes he'd go on Tuesday or Wednesday. And he can quote to you so many sermons. I mean, profound.
And around the same time as that clip, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth quoted a prayer used in the 1994 Quentin Tarantino film Pulp Fiction, a passage loosely based on the Bible. Many people putting together various clips. This one comes from Lord Bebo.
For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Critics of Trump's handling of religion often go back to this interview on Bloomberg over a decade ago.
You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favorite Bible verses are and why?
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that
you
like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Well, for more, we can speak to Scott Lucas, a professor, joining us on the line. Hello to you, Scott. We each know America is a very religious country, so it's difficult to make light of religion. For many people, it's a very serious issue. What do you think of the way the administration has handled itself this week?
So full disclosure, I'm the son of a Protestant preacher. So I was brought up in the faith. And let's put it this way. This is a man who is president of the United States who has never been a practicing Christian, despite what he just claimed there, who has been convicted of sexual assault in respect to a defamation case against the writer E. Jean Carroll in the 1990s, who has been convicted of fraud in his business activities, who has repeatedly committed adultery, who has repeatedly bore false witness, indeed does so on a daily basis, who has, at least in the name of the state, carried out killings. Let me put it to you as kindly as I can. If you do a checklist of those 10 commandments, I'll give Donald Trump a pass that he honored his father and his mother, but he has repeatedly broken the other 9. And what has compounded it this week is to take it up to a level where to try to push back against those who would call for peace, including Pope Leo, where he has tried to push back against those who have called for dialogue, including many people in many countries around the world, and who have, in response to people who have questioned his activities, he has resorted to blasphemy and insult. And I do know what that word blasphemy means. So no, I'm not going to sit here as an analyst and put up with it. I'm not going to sit here and put up with the fact that Donald Trump tries to grab the news cycle by being a bully, by being a deceiver at times, because there are many, many lives that this man is damaging, indeed destroying, as he actually seizes on the name of religion and acts in the most unreligious fashion that I've seen in a leader in many years.
Within the MAGA movement, there are many religious figures, official religious figures. And so some of the common criticisms go that the MAGA crowd accepts religious figures weighing in on politics only when it's a religious figure that they agree with. Otherwise, they don't stand it. And so some people say that makes it tantamount to being a cult. For his part, Donald Trump, though, says, look, I have the right to disagree with the Pope. He can say what he wants, and I can say what I want. I have the right to disagree. Is it as simple as that?
You have the right, obviously, to disagree and to respectfully discuss issues of religion and politics. I mean, that's what we should do on a daily basis to try to fight a better way forward. And there have been many times when many churches, have not acted according to decency and tolerance and respect. But on this occasion, Donald Trump didn't engage the Pope because he disagreed with him. Donald Trump tried to trash the Pope. There are words he used about the Pope I will not repeat here. But he falsely said that the Pope was weak on crime. He falsely said that the Pope is an appeaser who supports Iran's use of nuclear weapons. And he, in effect, tried to tear down the leader of the Catholic Church. I'm just going to repeat one of those 10 commandments. Thou shalt have no God before me. And the fact that Donald Trump went after the Pope was not just a disagreement. It was, in both that correspondence with the Pope and in presenting himself as Jesus, and that is what he did, Donald Trump is portraying himself as the divine figure who no one else should be allowed to question. son, that's breaking the first commandment, however you put it.
Yeah, I heard an interesting take on this, Scott. I'd like your reaction. Anthony Scaramucci, if you remember him, he's the White House communications director for part of Trump's first term in office. He says Trump's attack on the Pope is actually meant to be a blow to his vice president, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is writing a memoir about his conversion to Catholicism. And according to Scaramucci, or Mooch, as some people call him, Trump is trying to send a message that the Republicans are nothing without him. He doesn't want to pave the way to be replaced by J.D. Vance in the future. I mean, what do you make of Scaramucci's take?
Well, Mr. Scaramucci has got his own skin in the game, and I don't really want to go into that. But what I would say is that, no, I don't think you have to go into some type of deeper political theory here about Donald Trump trying to push out J.D. Vance as his successor. We can do so on other issues, including the Iran war. But you just go to a fundamental here. Donald Trump is a narcissist. Donald Trump is a bully. Donald Trump has been a narcissist and a bully throughout his business life, going back to the 1970s. He's been a bully and a narcissist as he ascended to the presidency. And at the heart of this is Donald Trump is a narcissist and a bully who, and this is the paradox, is insecure at the same time. And he's really insecure that a lot of people have questioned him over that war with Iran that is not going that well. And he's especially insecure about the fact that Pope Leo can respectfully call that out, and that Pope Leo can command the respect of many, many people, not just in America, but around the world. And that Leo does it with tolerance and with decency. Trump doesn't like that. He feels threatened by it. Yeah, and that's why he resorted to Twitter.
Yeah, insecurity, though, that's one thing. Being mentally unfit is an entirely different issue. We see some critics bringing this up more and more about the 25th Amendment. We had the clip of Mark Takano grilling RFK. Does anything about what you're seeing from Donald Trump suggest he might be mentally unfit for office?
Yeah, I've got to emphasize that I'm not a trained physician. Both my parents were psychologists. I can bring what I learned from them. So I can't give you an evaluation from a medical standpoint about whether he is mentally unfit. As an analyst, I don't think he operates on the rational plane, let's put it that way, at certain times. In fact, I think he leaves the rational behind but I think that's because he wants to leave it behind. I don't think it's because he doesn't know what's going on. This is Trump in his alternate vision of reality. And I think that's where we have to start from. And that brings us to the political question. Look, the 25th Amendment, removing him from office, will not be invoked on medical grounds. It will be invoked when the politics is there. And this really puts the question, not to me, it puts the question to members of his cabinet, it puts the question to members of Congress. When you have a person that is acting in this destructive fashion, when he has been destructive of many, many lives, not just in America and around the world, but when he's being destructive of the U.S. Constitution, the destruction of the American system, when you have a man who is not only a convicted felon, but who has been impeached twice, who continues to operate illegally, how long are you going to put up with it? The 25th Amendment is there for you to say enough is enough.
Yeah, but despite him being a convicted felon, he was reelected to office. I mean, there were millions of people that voted for him, that want him in office. And before this war, things were looking very differently as we head into midterm elections. This war, though, very unpopular in the United States. It's fracturing more and more support among conservatives, not a ton of support among the MAGA crowd, but more and more. So I'm wondering, when we look at religion, when we look at war, when we look at lots of other issues that have been overshadowed because of the war that are happening domestically in the United States, how are things shaping up for the Republicans in the midterms?
I think you've got three issues that come together I wouldn't say the Republicans, let's call them the Trumpists, because this is a faction within a party. And that is, before the war even started, you had, of course, the Epstein scandal, which I think was eroding the legitimacy of Trump in his inner circle as they tried to bury that scandal. And even if we get a lasting ceasefire in this war, that issue will resurge. Secondly, you have the issue of the war itself, raising questions about how much damage are you doing not to Iran, or the Middle East, but doing to America? Because it intersects with the third, and I think the most important issue, which is the economy. And the economy was already not in a great state before the war started. We could talk about GDP has been faltering. We can talk about the gradual rise in inflation. We can talk about the weakest job market outside of COVID since 2009. And of course, the war has made all those economic shocks worse with no apparent end in sight, despite Trump's proclamation that the Strait of Hormuz is open, which it isn't, and that energy prices are going to drop. So I think if you take this into the summer with the convergence of those three issues and add that to Trump's far from, let's say, level-headed behavior, I think you have an erosion of support for the Republicans, even if Trump remains, in control of that minority of folks who will stick with him come hell or high water.
Scott, thank you very much for your time. Professor Scott Lucas joining us from University College Dublin. Thank you.